Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
Hello, Reddit. I'm just any regular guy in his mid-30s working 24/7 while struggling and having a disastrous mental health. I will get straight to the point, as I too don't like people who talk too much in the starting paragraph. So here we go with this crap. As I said, a normal guy. Everything normal and more. But yeah, the thing is, I have been married before this once, and that crap didn't end up good. I'm drunk, venting here, like I'm not drunk, but I can feel the kick of it because I needed someone to talk to. So yeah, typing it here now. Making friends is too hard for a 34-year-old, and this is the best place ever. I first married Anya when we were both 23. She was the love of my life, and honestly, I always thought we would always be together with each other. But I was the only one who thought that. I'm happy with my life now, but not like before. Those were the days where I was in love with living life. She was there, and we had friends, and now everything is gone, including her. And then, too, she has the audacity to come over to my house and ask for help. She thought I am the same old stupid guy who was blindly in love with her and the one she kept using just literally for no reason. We were high school lovers and went to the same college and took the same major. We used to be around each other all the time. We have literally seen each other grow up and eventually give each other our everything and dream to spend the whole life together. But she had bring someone else in between. She always said I was the only one she wanted, but no, she didn't mean it. It's been 7 years since we divorced, and all the wounds are still fresh as grass in spring. I don't know if it's the alcohol which is driving me crazy, but it sounds so miserable that she did all that to me. Okay, I'm done venting. Now, let me give a clear picture to what happened. Me and Anya were married, and she cheated on me with my then best friend and blamed it on me for not being good enough for her. After everything, we divorced. It took me 5 years to move on from, and I was so hurt that I had to go complete no contact with her for my own reasons of staying sane. Then again, it was really hard for me to kill every part of me which loved her, and now I'm out of it. Started my new life again, worked on myself, and married the best girl ever. She's 28. We lived life together. It gets hard sometimes with me because of my poor mental health, but she remains patient. We go to therapy together and live and love peacefully. Everything is so easygoing with her. She is everything I wanted Anya to be. There is no comparison, but my wife is the best girl on the planet, and I am completely fond of her. Yesterday, my ex-wife showed up at my door. When I wasn't there at home, my wife knew about her, but she let her in and attended her as our guest. She said she thought of not opening the door, but she wanted to get over her thing as quickly as possible, so she'll be out of the picture. They talked, and according to my wife, she did sound fond of our relationship that she didn't remain faithful in and abused me. After they talked for a while, she mentioned how she was suffering from brain cancer and needed some help from me in regards to that. My wife is a real softie, and she won't turn her worst enemy down if they were dying, so she grew more and more sympathetic as my ex-wife kept telling her about what she was going through after the divorce, and the way that she exaggerated our relationship was out of the box. She would literally tell lies about how I disappointed her and how she was the only one putting all effort. Also said things like how jealous she was of my now wife, that I take care of her like a queen, almost like I didn't do all those same things for her as well. She just had a good lying, bluffing session about me in my own house, and I am mad at my wife for not kicking her sorry ass out. When I reached home in the evening, my wife kept on calling me and telling me I needed some as soon as possible. And when I did, the biggest disappointment of my life was sitting in front of me and sipping coffee like she didn't just ruin my whole life for 5 years back to back. I was really furious at her presence and started cussing her out. I know this is no way to talk with a girl, but we are talking about a really evil woman here. She cheated on me and then abused me, broke my nose, and I had to get 4 stitches on it. And when I started getting happy, she comes again and tries to ruin it. I threaten her, and I will call the cops on her if she doesn't leave. And when I reach out for my phone, my wife tells me that she has brain cancer and we should hear her once, and try to fulfill them. I'm just surprised at my wife. Like, what's wrong with her? That girl broke your husband and you were okay with her? But then she calmed me down and I came to a listening stage and kept my distance in case she would start breaking my nose again. I can still remember the pain I had to go through. She tells how she has brain cancer and it's in her last stage. So she would want things from me. First, to forgive her so that she can once again be accepted by her family. And the second is for me to lend her a huge sum of money for her treatment. For one moment, you can assume that I would pay her, but the whole forgiving thing is just not happening. A little background on why she was talking about her family is because we were family friends since we were kids, so basically our family relationships also went bad after the whole divorce thing. Her family was disappointed in her and just were disgusted at her for cheating and then beating me up under the influence of drugs. She has stopped doing drugs, according to her, but I don't care. I'm never forgiving her, and it's up to her family who they want to side with. If they want to think of me as a bad guy, then I don't care if they can. And about them forgiving her, I don't care more, but they would definitely lose all their relationship and bond they have with me. Like, I have this thing not to have any mutual relationship with anyone who is related to her. I don't want even the slightest amount about her presence in my life. After I refused, my wife looked at me completely disappointed and started to tell me things like how it has been 5 years and how I should just stop holding this grudge and let myself free so we all can move on and that poor girl can get her family back. Like, bro, how her own family not wanting her, my fault? It's their call, and my call is to forgive or not forgive her. And for my own mental sanity, I won't be forgiving her. That's honestly what happened till she started crying and weeping, throwing tantrums about how I owe her this much and all that crap. Then finally she started getting violent. My wife got so scared of her and hid behind me. Her ex used to abuse her all the time, and her getting triggered is something I don't want her to go through, honestly. She has very bad reaction to violence. Even the slight action scenes in movies when they start fighting triggers her and she gets scared really easily. So seeing her like this scared me. I couldn't think straight because of my own fair share of mental trauma and I pushed her. She hit the table and fell over. I called the cops and ran out of my house with my wife, and when they arrived, she accused me of throwing her to the table and assaulting her. And now, in all these, I am the bad guy. My lawyer came and made a settlement, but I don't agree to that. I did nothing but just defend myself, and I ain't paying for that shit. It's all now a wild mess, and I don't know how to get out of it. My wife is still shocked after everything happened and blames everything on herself. It's not her fault. She doesn't understand it. I hope it all goes better. I don't know, to be honest, where this thing will go for. So, a week gone by then, and everything has taken turns for the worse, and good too. My wife is more closed off and thinks she's bad for my life when she is the best thing ever happened to me, and we have decided once this legal matters are done, we're going for therapy and have a vacation, fall more in love with each other, and be safe within each other. And we are trying for a baby. As for Anya, she is long gone and we are suing her. I told her family about the whole incident and some knew it from Reddit. I feel so mad at her that I won't be able to explain it to her, and my ex-best friend reached out to me. He was easier to forgive because he was drunk when it happened, so Anya was the one who was in the wrong. And he told me that how she ended up with some broke homeless hipster and is still into drugs, and when we did further check up on her, a close friend of hers told that she is in debt and doesn't have any chronic diseases. She lied yet again. It's plain said to be her. We won the case, and that's the update. OFC, I will go into details. We sued her. We proved that she was the one who started getting violent. She confessed it when my lawyer was questioning her. She gave it out herself. She is on restraining order and her family don't want her anymore, no matter what. We won. She didn't deserve to win. It doesn't hurt, but it sucks to see someone who you grow up with throwing their life away. She had too much debt. That's why she started all this drama, to get money out of me. She is gone now, and it is much better. We are working on us and our life. We are good now. The update is everything I swear she got what she deserved. And she sounds like she needs help. And take yourself and your wife to therapy too, buddy. Everything will be fine. OP, you did nothing wrong. Slapping her in that situation wouldn't have been wrong either. Self-defense is okay. So, for a little bit of background, my biological dad has had this continuous habit where he gets with a girl for 2 to 3 years, gets her pregnant, breaks up with her, promises to come visit his child, then never does and completely ghosts her. He began doing this when my eldest half-sister was born and has been doing it ever since. In total, from what I know of, I have 6 other half-siblings. Anyway, moving on. The reason I said I didn't know if that was the total amount was because me and my bio dad just recently started talking, and I haven't been able to meet most of his girlfriends up until a week ago. My dad called me and told me he wanted me to meet his new girlfriend, since they had been dating for a year. So I said sure, and we planned everything out, time, date, etc. On my way there, the thought struck me. I need to warn her, about my bio dad's habit. So fast forward, I eventually got there, and about 4 of my other siblings were there, which was surprising, since he usually didn't invite his kids to his house at all. Anyway, while my siblings were talking to my bio dad, I pulled his girlfriend to the side and basically explained his habit, and that I thought it would be in her best interest to not have a child with him. She was kind of shocked and embarrassed that she didn't see it sooner. I assured her it was normal and that he was basically a pro now. Couple hours passed. I decided to leave because my siblings already had. I say my goodbyes and go home. Next morning, I woke up to 23 missed calls from my dad and 8 voicemails. Basically, all of the voicemails said I was an a-hole and that I ruined his and hers relationship. I ended up finding out that they had gotten into a big fight over it and his girlfriend broke up with him. Honestly, I was happy that she did. She seemed like a nice person, so I'm glad I could at least save one person and their child from having a childhood and life like me and my siblings. But some of my siblings agree with my dad and say I shouldn't have overstepped boundaries and that he was probably going to tell her anyway, so AITA? My dad's blocked me on all messages, calls, and social media platforms. My siblings that are on his side continue to console him and bring it up constantly. I've told me and my siblings' mothers most of what happened because they called me and they're on my side. I've tried to talk to that certain group of my siblings, but it's like talking to air. My dad's girlfriend got a pregnancy test, and thankfully she isn't pregnant. I'm going to try showing my siblings this post, but so far there's nothing I can really do. NTA, he's a loser, deadbeat, who frankly needs to be fixed. You and your half-siblings should all do ancestry DNA tests and see if you find any other siblings out there. Oh, and hire a lawyer to sue your sperm donor for child support. What you did was bold, but ultimately that woman will definitely feel thankful for what you did when she looks back on this in hindsight. Yeah, some may argue you overstepped your bounds, but then again, most of those people probably aren't women, children that have been impregnated, abandoned by an absolute selfish prick. Seems like you did the right thing overall. My uncle has been married twice. First marriage was to my Aunt Lee. They had Darcy and Milo together. Aunt Lee died when Darcy was about 12 and Milo was 9. 2 years later, he met his second wife, Rebecca. Rebecca was a mom of 3 kids under 4. Both were looking to make a new family. Darcy and Milo weren't happy with so much change in their lives. Darcy had been pretty vocal about not being ready for her dad to get married again, and she was especially vocal about not wanting a thing to do with Rebecca's kids. She told everyone who would listen that she wasn't going to pretend that she loved them or that they were her little siblings. It was such a sore spot between them. Then Darcy died about a year into my uncle's marriage. Her death brought a lot of tension with it. My uncle and Rebecca went into making up stories about how Darcy had loved her little siblings, Rebecca's kids. He told us all that they never needed to know that the day she died, she had told him she wished they weren't part of her life. All this led to Milo speaking up and saying he was wrong and that my uncle could not make them love Rebecca's kids. In time, Milo cut my uncle and his family off. I think he only speaks to me and one other mutual relative. That's it. He's now happily married and a dad, but has no desire to reconnect. My uncle still tells his now adopted kids about Darcy and how much she loved them. The lies have grown. They ask about Milo, and he tells them Milo is just hurting without his sister and that when they're older, they can all have a relationship again. They believe everything he tells them, even now that they're all older, teens, young adults. My uncle learned through someone, but I'm not sure who, that I have kept in touch with Milo. He wanted me to help him get in touch, and I said no. He told me they need to talk before one of the kids reaches out to him. I told him that his lies are going to come out sooner or later, and maybe he should consider putting an end to it all now. He told me it wasn't my place to threaten him. I said it's not a threat, but sooner or later lies always get found out. Some of my family think I should have just walked away. AITA? NTA, you didn't sound threatening, just giving some sound advice. You're under no obligation to provide your uncle with any information regarding your cousin. That would be a breach of your cousin's trust. Kudos on how you handled this. NTA, your uncle was harassing you and trying to make you betray someone's trust in a very significant way. You were well within your rights to tell him what you did. I guess you could have been non-responsive and decreased the drama. I'm sure your family just doesn't want to deal with the drama, but they're way out of line to blame you for it. This is all your uncle's doing, and his lies are irresponsible and contemptible.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked. We could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, "I'm moving to the sales department soon." If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. "Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it." On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. "Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived." I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. "They look good." "What are you talking about?" "These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one?" As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself. This could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. "Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay?" I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. "Yes, I'm inviting my father." "That's great. I might invite my parents too." I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.